Great big welcome to everybody. And if we don't already know you, would love to get acquainted. Um, and our feature today, actually, Aaron's our featured speaker. The topic is asking about amount, and Aaron's sharing some Asking Academy insights. And Aaron has great experience in asking about amount. We're going to give a little bit more context of what we mean by that. But uh, before we jump in, let me just give a quick overview what we're going to touch base on today. And so you'll see on the screen, we're going to make reference, probably a lot of reference to a 10-step staircase. And we'll unpack that a little bit, give you a bit of insight into conversational fundraising and what we mean by that. And then a big focus on one particular step in that process, and that's the step where we're asking about amount. We're going to save some time for questions and the opportunity to respond to that. And then before we go, we like to have a lightning round, and that is, what's your biggest takeaway for today? So just be thinking when it comes to that. We'll ask everybody to drop something into the chat box and share it with each other. So what's your top takeaway? And then as we wrap up, giving a little bit of insight into some things that are kind of on the radar screen for us. And if you're a returner, it's great to have you back. If you're first time, welcome. Hope it's something that'll be useful and enjoyable for you. But I think, Aaron, I think we got something special before we jump into our content today.
We do. This topic came up because this is one of the most common questions we get. How much should I be asking for? What's the dollar amount? Should I start high and work low? Should I work low and go high? And if you're in a situation where you're asking these questions, there's probably a reason there. You're in fundraising, you're in development, maybe you're in a campaign. And so one of the things that we wanted to offer, and this is going to be a little limited geographically, but we wanted to offer a major gifts assessment to someone on the call today, to an organization. And today we're going to limit this maybe within an hour's drive of the greater Tulsa or greater KC Metroplex. So if you text MGA, major gift assessment, MGA, and that's my cell phone number there, 913-938-2930. I'll leave that number up there. In fact, Ken, if you want to drop that number in the chat, so if we move on, people can still access that.
Okay.
But we'd love to jump in your boardroom next time you have a board meeting, if you have one within the next 45 days, and just do an assessment of your major gifts. That's a gift from us to you. So if there's anyone that qualifies there and would be interested in that, or your organization would benefit from a major gifts assessment, feel free to text that, and I will announce our winner by the end of this call.
So you're going to select one of the entries to be the winner.
I will.
So that's 913-938-2930. And I'll put it in the chat box right now.
Okay. So with that, let's jump ahead. We talk a lot about the Asking Academy. A lot of people ask, "What is the Asking Academy?" If you haven't been, it's a 5-month program where we really focus on major gift solicitation. We call it mastering the art of conversational fundraising. We have a relationship focus when it comes to fundraising. Focus on relationship instead of transactions. And so if you look at the slide on the top step number 10 is where you're asking for a gift or maybe giving a gift proposal. But there's 9 other steps to be taken, 9 other questions to be asked before you get to that 10th step. That's a lot of steps. So this changes some of the paradigm that's out there, some of the common practice. A lot of times people, they want to be asking for a gift at step number 1, and we think that's bad practice. I mean, unless there's absolutely no other opportunity to. You want to build a relationship, and there's other questions that need to be asked before getting to that 10th step and asking for a gift. And today we're going to focus on step number 6. So if you look at the staircase, we're going right into the middle. So there's a little bit of context that's missing before step number 6, steps 1 through 5. There's some context missing after, but we just want to give you a little glimpse of what it looks like to ask about amount, what we suggest, and a little bit of what we provide at the Asking Academy when we get to this step. So asking about amount. So if you're having questions like, wait, how do you know if this person's even interested in your organization, or have they given before? Well, that's all context in steps 1 through 5. And if you're wondering, like, what about the timing of the gift, or naming opportunities, or who's deciding, that's steps 7, 8, 9, and then up to 10. So I show you this graphic because we cover all of these in the Asking Academy, but today we're only going to hone in on one, which is step number 6, asking about amount. Asking about amount. So
Hey, let me ask something here real quick, Aaron.
yeah,
Um, I love the outline that you gave there. I have to tell you that when I talk to fundraising professionals across the country, this is the thing that people seem to be most anxious about. How much do I ask for, and how do I know how much to ask for? I'm just curious, by a show of hands, who would say that for you, this question about asking about amount, how much do I ask for, would be in the top 2 or 3 concerns of yours when it comes to doing actual gift solicitation? Anybody besides me feel anxious about that?
oh yeah.
Oh, we got several. Okay, yeah. So anyhow, that again, that's part of why we decided we were going to start kind of bring a focus on this particular step today.
And if you want to, in the chat, if you have any specific questions already about asking about amount, feel free to drop those in there. There's there's 101 different ways we could take the webinar today, and we want to make sure we hone it into what's most relevant to you,
Yeah.
most relevant to you. But if, as we step back and think about a donor call, meeting with a donor, or maybe even prospect, one of the things we like to really hone in and drive in, I'm sure Rachel's on the call, she could finish this, she could maybe drop this in the chat, but what's the most important part of a donor call? The most important part of a donor call is not what you say. And a lot of times, especially if you're in a leadership position, we think the most important part of a donor call is something that we are going to say. Like, I got to cast the vision. I got to communicate the campaign. I got to, I got to talk them into a gift. But the most important part of a donor call is not what we say. It's what we hear. And this can be really challenging if your job on a typical 8 to 5 is being the vision caster and communicator, and you think, no, my job is to talk. It can be really hard to stop the talking and start the listening. This is one of the most critical skills that we have to teach at the Asking Academy, is we think, well, I got to talk this person into a gift. No. You need to let them maybe talk themselves into a gift, but listen them into a gift. We define success as helping donors make well-informed decisions. So when it comes to major gift solicitation, success isn't trying to get someone to do something they don't want to do, or give a gift they don't want to give. If they want to make a gift, we want them to make the best gift that is perfect for them. And when we take that approach, again, that's way more relational than transactional, but we found there's just a whole lot more success there, more relational capital there, when we focus on helping them succeed versus twisting an arm and trying to manipulate someone into doing something they don't want to do. So if the most important part of a donor call is not what you say, it's what you hear. That implies that strategic listening is really important. How can we be strategic in the way we listen? And again, if you want to do a raise of hands, does anyone have a hard time listening? Some of us are really good talkers, but we're not great listeners. I know I'm guilty of that. If you're not sure, ask your spouse. That communication, being able to listen is such a important skill to have. And the same applies in fundraising. So when it comes to asking about amount, how can we ask a strategic question that will open up the opportunity for us to do strategic listening? Because strategic listening only comes after a strategic question has been asked. And there's this question here that I'm going to throw on the screen. And I would encourage you to screenshot this, write it down, take this to the bank, because this is worth its weight in gold. Or I guess technically this is digital. This is worth its weight in cryptocurrency. How about that? Digital money, digital gold. But here's a question. At the appropriate time, what range of gifts should we be talking about? So when you're getting to step number 6 and we're talking about amount, we're breaking some of the industry standard here, where it's typical for people to say, I'm going to do some research. I'm going to, go to my donor database and see how much you've given to other organizations, what your net worth is, how much you've given to organizations like ours. And if it's been an average about $50,000, I'm going to go big and ask for $60,000 and give it to you in a proposal and ask you for $60,000. The problem with that is you don't know what the donor wants to do. And we're asking questions and trying to answer them on our own when we don't have the answers. The other person has the answers. So this question is somewhat open-ended. At the appropriate time, what range of gifts should we be talking about? And there's some very specific language in here that I want to break down and share with you, because man, I think you integrate this question into your fundraising efforts and it's going to transform everything. So first of all, at the appropriate time, we lead with that. And why? What's the implication here? The implication is now is not the appropriate time. What that does, especially if this is an earlier conversation, earlier in the relationship, we quite haven't developed the rapport yet. This dispute, it's like a little valve release where it just releases a lot of the pressure from the situation. You can say, okay, we're just gonna let some of that pressure out. Hey, there will be a time when we ask, we talk about a gift, but now is not the appropriate time. It's like, okay, we can breathe. And then look at the second part. What range of gift should we be talking about? So I'm not asking for a specific amount. I'm not asking for a certain point on a gift chart. I'm talking about a range. And this gives the donor a lot of opportunity to fluctuate, to think, to say, oh, maybe in between this and that, this and that, this and that. So there's also an implication here. Well, what is this range? And we're going to share that on the next slide. But I want to throw this back to Kent, because Kent, you formulated this question. Are there any other points that you want to highlight in this question before we move on to the next slide?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I like to ask for a range instead of an amount, because that sets up an opportunity to ask for what oftentimes is even a bigger question. And so let's say, I don't know, we're just talking about rough numbers here. Let's say somebody would say, I would give someplace between $250,000, $500,000. I mean, that's a range, right? But when I hear a range, I have a follow-up question. And that is, when that time comes, how will you decide? I mean, that's a big difference. How are you going to decide? And when they hear that question, they will start talking about their why. We've talked about our why, And now they're going to start talking about their why. So it actually gives us a window into the soul.
Right. And there's this also, I'm going to steal a page out of your book. They might give a range 250 to 500,000. Another great question is simply acknowledging, wow, the difference between those two is extremely significant. How will you decide? How will you decide? And again, that opens up the opportunity to listen and allow our prospect and or donor to do the talking, and we get a glimpse of their heart, what they value, what's going to drive some of that decision. And again, the most important part of a donor call is not what we say, it's what we hear. So the more we can ask those strategic questions, the better. Now, this next slide is it carries one of these tools that I think is one of the most underutilized tools in fundraising today. Yet it's one of the most common ones, but it's underutilized because people shrug it off. Sometimes people maybe have a negative attitude about it. And I think that comes from not having the right approach on how to use this tool, but it completely plays into this question, what range of gifts should we be talking about? Because where's the range? And if we don't give an idea of what the range is, talking about a gift is very, very, very abstract. So when we can paint a picture of a scale or paint a picture of the context that we're talking about, it helps the donors. It's so kind for the donor to be able to gain some context on what our project looks like, what our price tag for success is, what it takes to push the mission forward. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about a gift chart or a gift plan, whatever language you use, but a document that shows our overall gift, which is on this particular sample gift chart, $10 million. This is a $10 million project. And so what are some of the ways that we can accomplish achieving this $10 million goal? And it's somewhere of, trying to find a gift of $1.5 million, a gift of $1 million, a couple gifts of $500,000, a few more at $250,000, and then working down from there. The gift chart, actually, another show of hands. Has anyone ever utilized a gift chart before or is familiar with the gift chart? Okay, so I don't see all the screens, but I see a lot of hands go up, see some of the digital hands going up too. Thank you. Some people love the gift chart. Sometimes there's an uncomfortable factor that comes with the gift chart, mainly because it's that uncomfort comes from a lack of ever using one. Maybe this is new or it's different. It's like, I don't know about this. But what this gift chart does is it gives context to the donor of what the organization is looking for as far as the price tag for success. I think sometimes the reluctance is, well, man, what that $10 million seems like a lot. Hopefully we're viewing our mission as worthy of a $10 million goal or whatever the right number is for your organization. And if we're doing life change, if we're doing work that matters, donors are going to see a big price tag and actually be inspired to be a part of pushing the mission forward. Some of the other factors that come into the gift chart, when we think of the price tag for success, we encourage our clients to not just think in 1 year terms, of fiscal year terms, but to think out over the span of 3, 4, or 5 years. This is easy to do and natural to do when you're in a capital campaign. But even if you're not in a capital campaign, we still encourage the idea of viewing yourself in a campaign because donors can be more generous with the more time that they have. And when you're looking out at the horizon of the future, saying, okay, we're not just raising funds for today, but we're thinking about growth, expanding our reach, expanding the vision. That inspires donors, and they think, okay, I'm not just bailing you out for an emergency fund today, but we're walking into the future. That's so much more motivating. They have more time, so they can be more generous. Another step in that staircase is asking about timing, but timing matters. But the more time donors have, the more generous they can be. And then this gives some context. Now, without the gift chart, it can be really, really tricky to be talking about amount. And I think that's one of the things why people just fear this topic. How much should I ask for? Well, you need to know what the organization is looking for, what the goal is. And so if you don't have that established, I would say go throw that back to the board. The CEO needs to work and figure out, okay, where are we going? What is the price tag for success? And we got to figure that out so we can have these conversations that are relevant. One of the common mistakes we see is being so vague, where a donor asks, well, what amount are you looking for? The donor might even ask that question. And if you answer with, well, wherever your heart leads you, essentially whatever you feel like giving, I know the intent behind that response is pure. That's like a very gracious, kind way of saying, I don't want to, put any pressure on anybody. And that's a kind thing, but it's so vague, it's not helpful. And it might actually be counterproductive. And it might not even be what that donor wants to hear. That's why this gift chart is so valuable, because it gives them some context. So if you say, well, wherever your heart leads, they might give you $25 out of their pocket and feel really good about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's problematic if they're potentially a $500,000 donor, but they don't know that's what you're looking for, so they can't respond appropriately. So the gift chart is huge, 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 huge. And Kent, we've seen a lot of success from people going through the Asking Academy and simply implementing this tool. Do you want to give any examples without breaking confidentiality, but share how this has transformed some of our graduates' fundraising success?
Yeah, you bet. So I think it was about a year ago. This is a recent one. This organization, fairly young, 10 years old, and not that large of an operation, about a $500,000 a year organization. Man, when they put a pencil to figuring out the price tag on their bold vision, it came up to $18.5 million. Now, when you chart 18.5 million, that's like 30, that's 37 years of their annual operation. Well, that's the price tag. They led with that. On their gift chart, the top gift was $3 million. And so they're talking with somebody, and one of the questions around amount was, and the way they ask it is there any amount on this that would be out of reach? And the answer was no. So they told me, they said that, well, we're going to ask for $2 million. I said, well, why? I don't know. I said, well, how about three? Top gift. It's not out of reach. They asked for $3 million. Guess what? They got it. They took it to another organization, asked for $3 million. They said, we're not sure yet where this lies in our own charitable priorities. But here's the point. It gives a meaningful context, rather than just compared to nothing. Everybody wants to know compared to what. And so this is the point of reference. And by the way, I will tell you that one organization, they've already raised, in a little over a year's time, they raised gift and pledges of over $10 million already. And we're redoing the gift chart because we're talking to somebody that is open to a $5 million request. And so we're going to have to make sure that there's room for them on it. So the point is, it creates an opportunity for us to talk about something that's really important, which is an amount of a gift, but we can talk to the page, and it's a whole lot more comfortable to talk to the page than just talk in abstract terms to a person.
That's good. And if you feel like you need help coming up with that number, talk to us. We love to help you get there. But so many times organizations hold back because of fear, and we're fearful of a big number. We're fearful that the funding community won't support us reaching for this big a number, and that number is just, it's relative. There's always going to be an organization that probably has an annual budget of your biggest campaign, and there's always going to be an organization that has an annual budget of one of the gifts that you're looking for. There's just a smaller organization as far as their annual budget. It's so relative. So don't let that fear get in your way, because that if the mission is worthy, then that's what matters. And the funding community is going to want to see you win. So don't let fear hold you back.
Well said.
Conversational fundraising. This is how we define it. This is our approach to utilizing ordinary natural encounters to explore mission-centered, sustainable, relationship-based decisions. It's a little bit wordy, but we're giving you a glimpse inside the Asking Academy. And one of the big pushbacks that we get from board members or volunteers is they don't want to approach their peers asking for a gift because they're fearful that the relationship could be ruined. And we all know what this is like. There's I hate to pick on any one particular organization, but because I love all these products too, but the multi-level marketing products out there, or the essential oils, or the cookware, where it's like you have a friend that's in that, and all of a sudden they're really interested in the relationship until you don't buy the thing that they're selling, and then they don't want anything to do, and then you feel bad because, oh, you know can we have dinner but not talk about that thing? And we know that's a factor when it comes to fundraising.
Yeah.
We intentionally prioritize the relationship over the gift. Another catchphrase is the person over the purse. We intentionally prioritize that because first of all, we don't want to be that guy. We don't want our clients to be that guy where it's like, no, I'm going to just avoid eye contact and not, just cut off all social interaction with this person because they asked for a gift. And every time we get together, they ask for a gift. So we value the relationship. And that's a part of that word sustainable that's on the screen there, sustainable relationship-based decisions. And if you felt like that, or if you have board members, a lot of times we have staff on the call, but they know their board, who are volunteers. And sometimes the board members are resistant to engaging in the fundraising process because they're protecting the relationship. And what we say is there's a couple ways to look at this. First of all, you might be doing the relationship a disservice by not sharing your passion. So if you have a board member who is completely passionate about your organization, about the mission, they are giving themselves. So they are donors, and they're also a volunteer. They're volunteering on the board. Someone may be on the outside looking in going, man, I see that person helping out with the food pantry or the homeless shelter, whatever the organization is. And they may be thinking like, they seem really passionate about that, but they haven't told me about it. I think as a friend, they would share that with me, but they haven't. Is there a reason why? So if sometimes when we withhold things that are precious to our hearts, it gets interpreted as, I don't care about you enough to share this with you. Whereas, so that's one way of looking at it. Like, hey, don't withhold that from someone. And what the conversation might look like is, let's say I have a friend, John. John, listen, I value our relationship so much. I would never want to do anything to jeopardize our relationship. But I also have this passion with this organization that I volunteer for. And I want to share that with you. But I would, and I even want to at some point share with you how I'm giving to that organization and see if that might be something you want to do. But I would never want that to get in the way of our relationship. But I don't know how to manage this. Do you want to hear about this or not? So we advise people, hold those conversations dearly, but be transparent with them and have the conversation. And what that can turn into is a fundraising opportunity. And if the person says, no, I don't want to hear about it, I don't, that would ruin our relationship, then you honor that and respect that. But that's typically not what happens. They're typically going to say, man, I've been wondering about that and waiting for you to tell me about it. Yeah, I want to hear. Let me in on what's going on the inside. How can I be a part of it? And they, you start, then the opportunity is there. But that conversational approach to fundraising is, I think, so precious. It's so honoring to everyone involved. And that's why we like it, suggest it, push it on our clients. At the Asking Academy, we even practice having these conversations, role playing, because you're not going to get it right the first time. So you need to practice. So we provide a safe place to practice. And, and, when you practice, you're going to fail a little bit. You're not going to get it right. So we do that in a controlled environment. So then people leave and they feel pretty confident and have those repetitions. And we actually have a person on the call who's been a part of the Asking Academy. So someone can speak to that firsthand if they would like. Anything else you want to share about conversational fundraising?
Well, I think the conversation kind of goes back to the big focus today, and that's on the amount. And make it a conversation, just like we said. At the appropriate time, what range should we be talking about? Is there anything here that would be out of reach? When you think about your philanthropic goals for the next, the next few years, what would be a comfortable gift? What would be a stretch gift for you? Lots of different ways that can be asked in a way that engages conversation. And then, of course, to do that, we have to ask a question and stop talking. So I'll do that right now.
Okay. I want to hit one more big idea before we go into an open Q&A session. And we also want to hear your biggest takeaway. But you can apply this to every step on this 10-step staircase. You can apply this, of course, to the question about amount, asking about amount. And really, you should probably apply this to all aspects of life. This is just
Good
like
point,
kind of
Aaron.
just good wisdom. But the big idea here is never assume or guess when you can ask. When we're showing up with a proposal with a dollar amount on it and we haven't had a conversation around it, we are assuming and guessing. And the reason this isn't a great approach is because a donor might want to give $1 million, but if you ask them for $500,000, they're going to say yes to the half. And you're missing out on a big opportunity because you assumed or guessed. Sometimes we'll even be consulting clients. They go, I'm not sure how much I should ask for. And we go, we're not sure either. You should ask and find out. It's just about that simple.
Yeah.
But
And
never
you
assume.
can have some fun with it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, yeah. Never assume or guess when you can ask, and you can always ask. You can always ask. The danger comes in from early acceptance. Someone says yes to a gift that's too small, and how quick can we go back and ask for another gift after they've already said yes to one? Not very soon.
Not very soon.
There's also a risk of early rejection if we're asking for a gift and they don't have all the context and all the information yet and they say no. And because we asked too early, how quick can we go back and ask for another gift?
Not soon.
Not very soon. So never assume or guess when you can ask. So I'm gonna stop the share right now. Let's just do a little bit of open Q&A or Q&R. If we don't have the answers, we'll give a response. That's what the R stands for, response. But I see one chat in there. Any questions, anything you want us to specifically hit on when it comes to asking about amount and or any other fundraising questions that maybe we've touched on today? So feel free to drop those in the chat. I'm going to take all the easy questions and give the hard ones to Kent.
Oh, thanks.
Tony. Oh yeah, Tony. She made a great comment here. Also, a risk of offending the donor if the ask is too small. Absolutely. Yep. That's
You have some experience in asking for a gift that wasn't too small, and aren't you glad you kept the door open for a seven-figure gift? Yeah. So Kim put a question in the chat box. So when you get an amount from someone, we send an RFP. It makes sense, but never heard that before. How does that look? Um, I'm not sure I really understand that question.
Kim. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, maybe just voice it.
Unpack that for us.
Yeah. So what I thought I heard you say was we're going to send in somebody tells you an amount that they commit to. So then you're going to send them an RFP. You're going to send a request for proposal.
Oh, no.
Is that-
I understand now. So we use a gift proposal, and
Okay.
that is our ask. We have a one page. In fact, Aaron, we might want to do a future 47-minute webinar just on the gift proposal, but in a very compact way, we distill the ask. And what we're asking for there is anytime that they only give us a range, then we're going to ask for the biggest number. Because like Tony said, we don't want to offend by assuming that they think they can give less than what they think they can give. And so anyhow, then we do that in a draft form so that we can have conversation around it. And if we use an example, we gave 250 to or yeah 250 to $500,000. We're going to put that request in and ask, is there anything about this that needs to change? And if they say yeah, instead of 500,000, we really want to give 150,000 a year, 3 years, make it 450. So again, it engages everybody in conversation so that ultimately we can get it exactly right according to them, so they can say yes to what they want to say yes to. Yeah.
I'd love to see that webinar.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Anybody else have a question or a comment or a thought before we move into wrap-up mode? I think we're pretty dedicated to 47 minutes on this 47-minute webinar. By the way, Brian, I got a question for you. Have you read all those books behind you? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, he's muted. I was muted too. I was just talking and then realized I'm muted.
I've read some of all of them and all of some of them.
That's great.
That's great. And I think you wrote at least one of them, didn't you?
Yes, that one.
That one, right? That's what I recognize that, Cutter.
Yep.
Hey,
I'm working
feel
on
free
another.
in the chat. Feel free to drop if you have a biggest takeaway. If there's one thing that you think, okay, I'm definitely taking this away from the webinar. We love to celebrate that with you. So throw that in there. I am going to pull up my phone real quick.
Hey, while you're doing that, Aaron, Brian
Yep.
put in there, he says, my challenge is getting the board to lift their sights. And real quick, two things on that. Number one, the goal itself has that effect. Breaking the goal down into a gift chart also has that effect. But what is a really trump card, and this is another thing, Aaron, we could do a whole webinar on, but that's an exercise where we actually walk volunteers, particularly board members, through the process of thinking about what their gift is, and then doubling that, and then doubling it again, and walking through the process of how would it feel to you to be able to give this larger gift. And so that lifting the sights, that's such an important process. So Aaron, you were what are you doing? Is now the time for the drawing?
Yeah, I pulled up the phone. The first person to text was someone from the Hospitality House of Tulsa. Do you know who that is, Kent?
I've got a guess, but I don't want to assume when I can ask.
Oh,
Um,
good job.
who's from Hospitality House of Tulsa?
Tony
Is that
Moore.
you?
Tony
Awesome.
Moore.
Congratulations.
So that's a Tulsa area one. So I'll let you take that. Tony, we'll follow up with you and get those plans on the calendar for a major gifts assessment.
Hey, she may be hoping for a better alternative, Aaron.
Well, oh yeah. If I have to travel down to the Tulsa, I'll do that for the Hospitality House. Hey, let me tell you about two things that are coming up. First of all, of course, the Asking Academy. We have one in June. It'd be pushing it to get a team there, but we could squeeze it in. The summit is in June. So it actually has started a couple days ago, the actual 5-month process, but we have another one coming up in October. So if you feel like you need to get a team to the Asking Academy, teams of 4, 5, or 6, this is staff, board, fundraising volunteers, equipping the entire team to engage in conversational fundraising. Let us know if you're interested. Even type in the words Asking Academy into the chat and I'll follow up with you there. And then next month, oh yeah, Kent?
No, go.
Okay. Next month's 47-minute webinar. You're going to want to hear from Dr. Kirsten Brown Persley. She has her book that's just been published, Delivering Dignity, a guide to cultivating cultural competent organizations. She's a good friend, but this book revolves around, you probably couldn't tell by the title, but it revolves around the DEI, sometimes B space, but she has such a wonderful, dignifying approach to it. It's just a refreshing approach to the DEI space. And for me personally, I've been in workshops and things where you walk away feeling like a guilty person, no matter how good your intentions are. And that's not how this comes across. So we hope that you join us next month. We're going to be just having a conversation, and Kirsten's going to be taking us through this idea of dignity within the organization. It's a great book too. We'll have the link at the webinar, but that'll be coming up as well. And I'm just going to want to say thank you for being a part of the webinar today. It is 10:47, so we're going to end it here. AskingAcademy.com if you want to hear more about or learn more about the Asking Academy, visit the website. But thank you guys so much for taking out a little chunk of your day and spending it with us. If there's anything we can help you do when it comes to asking about amount or fundraising, we're here for you.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you
to
so
see
much.
everybody today, and hope to see you again next month for the 47-minute webinar.